In the heart of medieval Assisi, a revolution was brewing, not with swords and shields, but in the soul of a man destined to change the course of history. This is the story of Saint Francis of Assisi, the founder of the Franciscan order, born into a world of wealth and dreams in 1181. Amidst the wealth and dreams of his father Pietro Bernardone, Francis's journey began. Baptized against his father's wishes, he was christened Giovanni after John the Baptist, but a father's dreams of commerce and a French legacy changed that. So he renamed his son Francesco, which is the equivalent of calling him Frenchman. Saint Francis, born Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone, entered the world in the thriving town of Assisi. His father, Pietro di Bernardone, was a wealthy cloth merchant, and Francis enjoyed the comforts of affluence. Francis fulfilled every hope of Pietro's, even falling in love with France. He loved the songs of France, the romance of France, and especially the free, adventurous troubadours of France who wandered through Europe. Francis enjoyed a life of ease, surrounded by adoration. His charisma, joy, and leadership made him a beloved figure, but beneath the surface, a restlessness stirred. But Francis wanted more than wealth, but not holiness. Francis wanted to be a noble, a knight. Francis's quest for glory led him to the battlefield, a place he dreamed of. But the taste of battle was bitter. Most of the troops from Assisi were butchered in the fight. Only those wealthy enough to expect to be ransomed were taken prisoner. Imprisoned and humiliated, he returned home. The experience didn't change what he wanted from life either. Finally, a call for knights for the Fourth Crusade gave him a chance for his dream. But before he left, his father gave him a suit and armor decorated with gold. Francis didn't go any farther than one day ride from Assisi. In a divine intervention, a dream changed everything. God's message redirected Francis from the pursuit of earthly glory. He abandoned his quest for knighthood and returned home. Francis's journey to conversion took him to the lowest and simplest places. A meeting with a leper, a divine call at San Damiano. Each encounter brought him closer to a life of humility and love. One day, while riding through the countryside, Francis, the man who loved beauty, who was so picky about food, who hated deformity, came face to face with a leper. Francis, repelled by the appearance and smell, jumped down and kissed the leper. Francis, filled with joy when his kiss was returned, rode off. He turned around for a last wave and saw that the leper had disappeared. He always looked upon it as a test from God that he had passed. Again, his encounter at San Damiano, when he was praying, Francis heard Christ from the crucifix told him, "Build my church." By an impetuous resolve to heed the divine call, Francis, in his characteristic fervor, seized fabric from his father's shop. Little did he realize that this impulsive act would unleash a series of events, challenging the very fabric of his life. His father was enraged and reported to the bishop, and in front of the bishop and the town people, the bishop ordered Francis to return the money to his father that God will provide. There, Francis made a pronouncement that changed everything about his call and said, "Pietro Bernardone is no longer my father. From now on, I can say with complete freedom, 'Our Father who art in heaven.'" Wearing only but cast-off rags, Francis embarks on a pilgrimage into the woods, possessing nothing in the material sense, yet holding everything. His voice, a melodic testimony to newfound freedom, echoes through the trees. Adversity met with resilience, a song persistently on his lips. As Francis embraced a life of poverty, he felt called to repair God's church. But this wasn't just the crumbling structure of San Damiano, it was the spiritual renewal of the church itself. Francis' love extended beyond humanity to embrace all of God's creation. His preaching to birds and taming a wolf reflected his deep sense of brotherhood with every living being. Birds stay back to listen to him preach, and only flies away when he asks them to go away. And he tamed a wolf that used to disturb the city, making the wolf friend of all. But his influence did not end in animals, but also men from all fields of life began to join his mission, and they became a brotherhood. Francis's brotherhood lived in radical poverty, not as a deprivation, but as a liberation. Possessing nothing, they were truly free. Their joy and love drew others to their unconventional way of life. Francis's direct approach defined his life. He approached life with simplicity and spontaneity, making mistakes that he corrected with the same immediacy. His journey to meet Pope Innocent III for the approval of his brotherhood showcased his courage and conviction. The Pope threw him out, but when he had a revelation in his dream that the tiny man in rags held up the tilting Lateran basilica, he quickly called Francis back and gave him permission to preach. Francis read the Bible. To the rich young man, to sell all his good and give to the poor, the order to the apostles to take nothing on their journey, and the demand to take up the cross daily. He lived by the gospel. Francis took Bible commands so literally that he made one brother run after the thief who stole his hood and then offer him his robe. Apparently, pressure came from outside to control this great movement, to make them conform to the standards of others. His dream of radical poverty was too harsh, people said. Francis responded, "Lord, didn't I tell you they wouldn't trust you?" He finally gave up authority in his order, but he probably wasn't too upset about it. At last, he was just another brother. Francis is known for his love for nature. Years of poverty and wandering had made Francis ill. When he began to go blind, Pope ordered he should be operated on. This meant cauterizing his face with a hot iron. Francis spoke to Brother Fire. "Brother Fire, the Most High has made you strong and beautiful and useful. Be courteous to me now in this hour, for I have always loved you, and temper your heat, so that I can endure it." And Francis reported that Brother Fire had been so kind that he felt nothing at all. Final years were marked by suffering, humility, and a deep connection with Christ's passion. Yet he continued to compose his beautiful Canticle of the Sun, praising God even in the face of physical pain. He died on October 4th, 1226, at the age of 45. Francis is considered the founder of all Franciscan orders and the patron saint of ecologists and merchants.